You ever noticed how some of the happiest, most content people you know are also kind of quiet on social media? Well, it turns out that's probably not a coincidence. Today, we're going to dig into the science of why a more private life can actually be a happier one, and why so many of us feel like our self-worth is totally tied up in being seen online. Let's get right into it.
So we have to start with this question. I mean, it sounds like a joke, right? But for a lot of us, it's a real source of anxiety. If you go on an amazing vacation, or you eat a fantastic meal, or you achieve something you're proud of, and you don't post it, did it still count? This pressure comes from this idea of an invisible audience that we feel we need to be performing for, like, all the time.
And that constant feeling of being watched, of putting on a show for that invisible audience, well, that brings us to our first big idea, the performative self. This is that polished, perfect version of us that lives online, the one that's been carefully edited and filtered for maximum public approval.
And believe me, this conditioning runs deep. Social media has basically trained our brains to think that an experience isn't fully real until it's been witnessed and liked and commented on. It's wild when you think about it. The moment itself can actually become less important than the proof that the moment happened.
So what's the psychological engine that's driving this constant need for an audience? This is where things get really interesting. The source material for this explainer uses this incredible metaphor, the slot machine of worth.
So at the very heart of this slot machine is something called external validation. Basically, it's when your sense of who you are isn't coming from inside you. Instead, you're constantly looking outside to your followers, to the algorithm, to tell you if you're good enough or smart enough or happy enough.
And here is the hook. This is the secret sauce that makes it so addictive. Social media platforms are absolute masters of what's known as intermittent reinforcement. You get a reward, likes, comments, shares, but you never ever know when it's coming. It's totally unpredictable. And that is the exact same psychological principle that makes slot machines in Vegas so impossible to walk away from.
I mean, think about it like this. Posting a photo? That's you placing your bet. You're putting a little piece of your self-esteem right there on the table. Then you pull the lever. You start refreshing the page, just waiting for those likes to roll in. That feeling, that knot in your stomach of anxious anticipation, that's the gamble. And the payout is completely unpredictable, which, of course, is what keeps you coming back for more.
So, here's the crucial point. This whole system creates what psychologists call fragile high self-esteem. When the likes are pouring in, yeah, you feel incredible, you're on top of the world. But when a post just flops, that feeling crashes, and you can feel completely worthless. Your identity becomes liquid, constantly changing its shape based on how the audience reacts.
Okay, so if that's the trap, what's the alternative? How do we get off this emotional roller coaster? Well, the answer lies in building what we can call a solid core.
This solid core is built on a psychological trait known as self-concept clarity. It sounds complicated, but it's really about one thing: truly knowing who you are. Your beliefs about yourself, that you're a kind person, a good friend, a hard worker, they're clear, they're confident, and most importantly, they don't change just because of who's watching. Your identity is solid.
I love this quote because it just gets right to the heart of this mindset. When you have that high self-concept clarity, looking for validation online starts to feel, kind of silly. Why would you need hundreds of strangers to vote on something you already know is true about yourself? It's like asking for a poll on whether the sky is blue. You already know the answer.
This powerful shift from looking outside to looking inside leads to this profound change in how you see your own value. It lets you create what we're going to call a non-negotiable worth.
So let me ask you a pretty direct question here. Is your worth for sale? Because every time you post something looking for that hit of validation, you are, in a way, putting your self-worth up on the open market and asking the internet, hey, what price will you give me today?
And this really presents two totally different ways to live. On one side, you've got a negotiable worth, where you're in a constant, exhausting negotiation with strangers about your own value. And on the other, you have a non-negotiable worth. You've just decided, you know what, my value isn't up for debate. You've taken your self-esteem completely off the market.
And this is why so many people who step back from social media describe this huge, sudden wave of relief. It's because they haven't just gotten rid of an app on their phone. No, it's bigger than that. They have fundamentally closed the trading floor, where their self-worth was being bought and sold every single day.
And that incredible sense of relief opens the door to something really powerful, which brings us to our final idea, the joy of the secret.
You know, there is a unique kind of power in having a beautiful moment or a personal success or just a simple little joy that belongs only to you. When you don't immediately broadcast it out to the world, you're not spreading its energy thin just to get a few likes. You're preserving it. You're keeping its density. That moment becomes richer and it becomes more meaningful, precisely because it's yours and yours alone.
So we'll end with this question, just for you to think about. Take an honest look at your own habits. When you feel good about yourself, is that feeling coming from that solid core we talked about? Or is it coming from the unpredictable payout of the slot machine? It's a really powerful question to ask yourself as you decide how you want to live.